Ayes 40, no zero. The measure passes. Moving on to item 248, Senator Block. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 305 by Assemblymember Gonzalez and accolating to employment.
Senator Block.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, last week I was very proud to be a member of this body when my colleagues voted by a 40-0 margin to support equal pay for equal work for women. AB 305 seeks to eliminate other gender bias in the workplace, that is, gender bias against working women who are in work injury situations in the workers' comp system. Under the current system, compensation claim amounts can be disproportionately lower for women than those awarded to men for the same injury if the woman has a pre-existing condition that predominantly or only affects women. These conditions include pregnancy and menopause. AB 305 will prevent doctors who do these workers' comp examinations from using these conditions to reduce the apportionment that a woman is given if her condition is essentially similar to a man's, if her injury is essentially similar to a man's. California is a leader on workforce equity issues. AB 305 is part of a critical fight for equity in the workplace, including last week's vote for equal pay for equal work. This bill is part of the 2015 Stronger California legislative agenda and has support from first responders, a wide range of labor organizations, women and family advocates, and public employee groups. Being a woman should not be a hampering pre-existing condition. The groups supporting this include PORAC, the California Professional Firefighters, California Nurses Association, AFSCME, UFCW. AB 305 has received bipartisan support, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Anderson. No Bates. No Bell. Aye Berryhill. No Block. Aye Cannella. No De Leon. Fuller. No Gaines. No Gaggiani. Aye Glazer. No. Hall. Aye Hancock. Aye Hernandez. Aye Hertzberg. Aye Hill. Aye Hueso. Huff. No Jackson. Aye Lara. Aye Leno. Aye Leva. Aye Liu. Aye McGuire. Mendoza. Aye Mitchell. Aye Monning. Aye Morlock. No Morrell. No Wynn. Nilsson. No Pan. Aye Pavley. Aye Roth. Runner. No Stone. No Vidak. No Wykowski. Aye Wolk. Wolk aye.
Call the absent members.
Wesso aye. Wynn no. Allen. Aye. De Leon. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Roth.
Ayes 24, noes 15. The measure passes. Senator De Leon.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Can we go to privileges of the floor?
Without objection.
Colleagues, just very quickly, I want to extend a very warm, recognition to one of our own. She is a former Choral Fellow for Public Affairs, and she came here, started as a staff member, and has worked up the rank, come up the ranks, and now she is a full-fledged senator, a very strong advocate, and it is her birthday. So let's get up for Senator Holly Mitchell.
Senator Jackson. Senator Jackson.
Yes, and to follow up to my seatmate, I want to expand the discussion just a bit to note that it is her quinceañera reversa today. Happy birthday, Senator Mitchell.
Feliz cumpleaños to Senator Holly Mitchell. Members, back on Assembly third reading. File item 249, Senator Bell. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 662 by Assemblymember Bonilla and accolating to public accommodation.
Senator Bell.
Thank you much, Mr. President. I'm pleased to present this bill, AB 662. This requires all new commercial spaces of a public amusement with an occupancy of 2,500 people or more to install adult changing stations for individuals with a physical disability by the year 2020. And after January of 2025, renovations at such facilities which cost more than $10,000 or more would be required to include in the adult changing table as well. Now, these commercial places of public amusement include auditoriums, sports arenas, permanent amusement parks, and theaters. According to the 2014 report by the Department of Developmental Services, there are 53,000 people with physical disabilities that could benefit from an adult changing station. By expanding the public restaurant accommodations in large occupancy buildings, we are ensuring that people with physical disabilities and their families are given a dignity and basic human right to maintain their health and personal care needs. I'd like to point out, members, that right now in these large occupancy facilities like sports arenas, convention centers, and so forth, that don't have these changing tables, people that have cerebral palsy and other illnesses and other afflictions are changed on the floor of these restrooms. And that is not appropriate. We have to pass this bill to have the human dignity of people. At least they should have a cot or a changing table to do the changing. And I urge and I vote. Thank you.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. Bates. No. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. No. Block. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Galgiani. Aye. Glazer. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Hill. Aye. Weso. Huff. Jackson. Aye. Lara. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell. Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. Morrell. No. Morlock, no. Wynn. Nelson. No. Pan. Aye. Wynn, no. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Runner. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wachowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members, please.
Anderson, no. Wesso, aye. Glazer. Aye. Hertzberg. Huff. No. Runner.
Ayes 26, noes 12, the measure passes. Moving on to file item 251, Senator Allen. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 71 by Assemblymember Rodriguez, an act relating to criminal justice.
Senator Allen.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senators, recent incidents of police involvement in the deaths of individuals has resulted in national protests, civil unrest, and even the targeting and death of police officers. Indeed, we all know that there was a protest here just last week. There is unfortunately no statewide database in California that contains reliable statistics on officers involved in shootings or data on officers who have been wounded or killed. Without this information, we are left with anecdotal reports or information that is often taken out of context. AB 71 will require each law enforcement agency to annually furnish to the Department of Justice the standardized report on all incidences where a peace officer or an individual is shot or where use of force results in serious bodily injury. This bill would collect data on the gender, race, and age of each individual who was shot, injured, or killed, the date, time, and location of the incident, whether the civilian was armed, and if so, the type of weapon the civilian had, the type of force used against the officer, the civilian, or both, including the types of weapons used, and would contain a brief description regarding the circumstances surrounding the incident. Knowing what the real issues and problems are will help us to improve training and response and will help to make our community safer and help restore confidence in law enforcement. California Attorney General Kamala Harris is in support of AB 71, and has announced that she hopes that this will be the centerpiece of the Department of Justice's new program, the Open Justice Initiative. And this is an open data platform that focuses on increasing transparency and greater insight into how law enforcement is working to protect our communities. The bill has wide bipartisan support. It's supported by the Attorney General, the California Police Chiefs Association, the Urban League, and the ACLU. It's received no votes in either house, and I ask for an aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Oh, Senator Stone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate your patience. First of all, I'd like to say that I strongly support AB 71, but I do have a question for the author's representative.
With that, Senator Allen, would you take a question? Senator Stone, go ahead.
To my dear friend from Beverly Hills, it's my understanding that local governments are going to be reimbursed the cost of providing this data to the state, and it's been surmised that the cost could exceed over $150,000. I was just curious, at a time when we're trying to find money to pay for transportation costs, a time when we're trying to pay for health care costs, the budget has already been passed. Any expenditure with this bill and probably about 20 others which could exceed over $1 billion. I'm just curious, what funds are we going to be using to do this bill? I support it wholeheartedly. I'm just concerned about where the money is going to come from.
Well, Mr. President, I'm looking at the Republican caucus analysis, in fact, and it seems to suggest it's general fund. So are you asking for a particular source?
Yes. As far as what state funds are you going to use to reimburse local governments from?
Okay. Senator Galgiano, the senator from Stockton seems to want to say something about this.
I've asked the same question, and in this year's budget, we appropriated $20 million for frontline law enforcement.
Senator Galgiani, do you want to answer that question?
Yes.
Without objection.
In this last year's budget, we appropriated $20 million for frontline law enforcement, and this money is eligible to be used for that purpose.
Okay, I appreciate hearing that. I do support AB 71. I just am concerned that we have a number of bills that are requiring some general fund expenditures for which we have not allocated those monies at a time when we have so many other priorities. Based on the information I just gathered, I strongly urge an aye vote on AB 71.
Thank you. Senator Nielsen.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I do rise in support. I will note on that latter point that $20 million directed to local law enforcement was not necessarily for this particular purpose. It was for the impacts of what has been imposed on local governments with AB 109. And that's been a contention point for a long time, and $20 million is supposed to be helpful to them. And we can justify a lot of things coming out of that pot, but the most important should be officers and training. Now, it's not in this bill, and it's too late to amend this bill, but I entreat the members of the legislature, and I'll certainly be willing to take a lead on it myself. I'm going to check, but I do not know that there's such a formal reporting of officer assaults by the public, by officers who are shot, or officers who are murdered by members of the public. And those incidents are increasing within our jails and custody and on the street. And if we're going to report this kind of matter related to these types of individuals, we should report similarly on those incidents where the public confronts, attacks, hurts, harms, or kills our law enforcement professionals.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. Members, additional debate or discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Allen, would you like to close?
I just want to thank the senator from Stockton for her help, and senator from Temecula as well. I'm actually from Santa Monica, but I do proudly represent Beverly Hills, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Members, is there an objection to using a unanimous roll call on this item? Any objection? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 40, no zero, the measure passes. Members, moving on to file item 253, Senator Block. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 1307 by Assemblymember McCarty, an act relating to public post-secondary education.
Senator Block.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm pleased to present AB 1307, which creates greater transparency and accountability at our public colleges and universities related to proposed fee increases. In a recent LAO report, it was determined that the UC was non-compliant with several statutory provisions regarding the state's Student Fee Transparency and Accountability Act. This measure will ensure that students and families have sufficient public notification and engagement for proposed fee increases so they can better plan ahead. AB 1307 is supported by the University of California Student Association and the California State Student Association. The only opposition was by the University of California, but they removed their opposition on September 4th, and there is no opposition. I respectfully request your aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. I. Anderson. I. Bates. I. Bell. I. Berryhill. I. Block. I. Canella. I. De Leon. I. Fuller. I. Gaines. I. Galgiani. I. Glazer. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Hueso. I. Huff. I. Jackson. Lada. I. Leno. I. Leva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. Monning. I. Morlock. Morrell. Wynn. I. Nielsen. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. I. Stone. I. Vidak. I. Wachowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members.
Jackson, aye. Mitchell. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. I. Nielsen. Aye.
Ayes 40, no 0. The measure passes. Members, the next 5 items are file item 255 by Senator Hill, 256, Senator Pavley, 257, Senator Walk, 258, Senator Bell, and 259, Senator Block. File item 255, member Senator Hill. Secretary, please call the roll.
Assembly Bill,
Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 670 by Assemblymember Irwin, enacting to technology.
Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, AB 670 would address the growing issue of cybersecurity in California state government by requiring a minimum number of network security assessments to be performed each year. This bill implements recommendations of a recent state auditor report identifying this as an area of high risk to the state. By strengthening state cybersecurity law, this bill would also complement the governor's executive order on this issue released just last week. These security assessments are recognized best practices in preventing cyber attacks on public networks like those that have recently impacted the federal government, costing hundreds of millions of dollars and jeopardizing our national security and our citizens' privacy. Given the size of California government, a breach can be similarly costly, and this bill represents a timely investment in security. I respectfully ask for an aye vote, members.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. I. Anderson. I. Bates. I. Bell. I. Berryhill. I. Block. I. Canella. I. De Leon. I. Fuller. I. Gaines. I. Galgiani. I. Glazer. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Hueso. I. Huff. I. Jackson. I. Lada. I. Leno. I. Leva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. I. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. I. Wynn. I. Nielsen. I. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. Stone. I. Vidak. I. Wachowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members.
Runner.
Ayes 39, no 0. The measure passes. Moving on to file item 256, pass on file. 257, Senator Wolk. Oh, that's right. Apologize for that. That's an enact. File item 258, Senator Bell. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 224 by Assemblymember Jones Sawyer, enacting new pupils.
Senator Bell.
Thank you much. This bill, Mr. President and members, requires the State Department of Education, in consultation with the California Foster Youth Education Task Force, to develop a standardized notice of the educational rights of foster children and to post the notice on its internet website. We have been working on the Bill of Rights for foster youth, and there is a bill, SB 117, and the McKinney-Vento Homeless Act. Homeless youth in California have the right to receive notice on several forms of their unique education rights, which are really similar for homeless youth to foster youth. This bill would bring foster youth and with parity to the homeless youth and help these youth advocate for themselves in their educational settings and provide notice about their basic educational rights at the time of enrollment and also in the public area of their school site. Let's help the foster youth achieve success in education. I respectfully ask and I vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, is there objection to using our unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 40, no zero, the measure passes. Moving on to file item 259, Senator Block. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 30 by Assemblymember Alejo, enacting schools.
Senator Block.
Thank you, Mr. President. AB 30 will phase out the use of the derogatory racial slur Redskins as a school team name, mascot, or nickname. The measure is part of a national movement to get rid of the use of the Redskin name, a movement which started almost 50 years ago in 1963. Many universities and school districts in California have already taken the lead, voluntarily moving away from using such an outdated and offensive term for their team name and mascot. AB 30 has received bipartisan support in the Senate Education Committee and in the Assembly. It's supported by multiple tribal associations and tribal councils, by civil rights organizations, including ACLU and the Anti-Defamation League, by education organizations, including...
Members, it's getting a little noisy, please.
Including the California
Keep your
Faculty
voice.
Association and the California Teachers Association. I ask for your aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. No. Bates. No. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Block. Aye. Cannella. No. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. Galgiani. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Hill. Aye. Wesso. Aye. Huff. Jackson. Aye. Lara. Aye. Leno. Leyva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell. Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. No. Morrell. No. Wynn. Nilsson. No. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Runner. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wachowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk aye.
Call the absent members.
Win aye. Runner no. Berryhill. Gaines. Galgiani. Hertzberg. Huff. Leno. Aye.
Ayes 25, noes 10, the measure passes. Members, these are the next following 5 items. File item 260, Senator Monning. 261, Galgiani. 262, Pavley. 265, Wolk. And we're going to go back to 223, Senator Hall. Senator Monning, are you prepared to take up file item 260? Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 361 by Assemblymember Ashajian, enacting to electricity and declaring the urge thereof to take effect immediately.
Senator Monning.